Hello and welcome to Sunday's football review. Here we're going to talk about each main games that went down, including the most anticipated match between Chelsea and Manchester City. But let's analyze this one and the other games together. Over in Stamford Bridge, full-time whistle goes as Chelsea at home lost 3-0 to Manchester City as Guardiola's side cut Arsenal's lead with statement victory. Manchester City moved 3 points closer to Arsenal with an eye-catching 3-0 win over Chelsea with Ryan Cherky playing a starring role. Man City overcame a slow start to defeat Chelsea's 3-0 at Stamford Bridge and cut Arsenal's lead at the Premier League to 6 points. Pep Guardiola's side will go within 3 points of the Gunners as they defeat them in a titanic showdown at the Etihad Stadium next week, if they defeat them. And they still have a game in hand to come after that. Things were far from comfortable for them in the first half of Sunday's game, but a second half masterclass inspired by Ryan Cherky helped them pull clear. Chelsea had the better chances in the early stages as Cole Palmer and Joao Pedro lashed into side netting, while Marco Correa finished across Gianluigi Donnarumma, though he did so from an offside position. City's only real opportunity of the first half saw Robert Sanchez deny Bernardo Silva from a close range, but a totally different game after the interval as the visitors upped the ante. O'Reilly missed Cherky's cross with a towering header past Sanchez in the 51st minute, and only 6 minutes later the Frenchman provided an even better assist, gliding across the box before slipping a neat pass into Marc Guehi, who finished like a centre forward. It was game over when Moises Caicedo was caught in possession by Doku, who advanced into the area before finishing inside the near post in the 68th minute, and Donnarumma preserved his clean sheet with a late stop to keep out Cucurella's header. After the tense first 45 minutes, City needed one of their star players to step up, and though O'Reilly, Guehi, and Doku got their goals, it was Cherky who provided the spark. 2 assists in 6 minutes from the former Ligue 1 man changed the game, and potentially this season's title race. He has now teed up 10 goals for teammates in the Premier League this term. He is the first player to register 10 assists in his debut in Premier League campaign since Dimitri Payet for West Ham in 2015-16 season. Cherky has also registered multiple assists in 4 different games across all competitions this season, more than any other player for Europe's top 5 leagues ahead of Manchester United's captain Bruno Fernandes. Both of the chances he created here resulted in goals. Chelsea, meanwhile, have lost 3 straight Premier League games without scoring for the first time since March 1998, having registered fewer shots, which is 12 to 18, shots on target, which is 3 to 8, and expected goals, which is 1.14 xG to 1.89 than City. And its full-time whistle in Stamford Bridge, Chelsea 0, Manchester City 3. And over in Wearside between Sunderland and Tottenham Hotspur, Roberto De Zerbi's first match in charge for Tottenham Hotspur ended with Sunderland 1-0 win. Mukiele inflicts debut defeat on De Zerbi. Tottenham's winless Premier League run stretched to 14 games with 1-0 defeat at Sunderland, which exasperates their relegation struggle. Roberto De Zerbi started his tenure as Tottenham manager with a demoralizing 1-0 defeat at Sunderland that leaves his side in the Premier League relegation zone. The Italian was handed a 5-year contract over the international break, but he did not enjoy a new manager bounce on Sunday as Nordi Mukiele's deflected second-half effort settled a close encounter at the Stadium of Light. Brian Brobby handed Enzo Lefebvre's dinky crossover, and Granit Xhaka dragged wide for Sunderland, who had done well to manage an earlier bright Tottenham start. Stand-in Spurs goalkeeper Antoine Kinski then denied Brobby a point-blank range, and Robin Roves did the same to Dominic Solanke at the other end, as two golden opportunities were squandered in the first half stoppage time. But Mukiele was rewarded for a marauding run from the right with a shot that deflected heavy off Mickey van der Ven and past the stranded Kinski in the 64th minute. Cristi Romero went off in tears after colliding with Kinski, with that incident leaving the Spurs keeper needing a bandage, and the visitors were unable to muster a late response as they saw their winless league run stretch to 14 games, keeping them 18th on the table with 6 games to play. It's a desperate situation for Tottenham, who have failed to win their last 14 Premier League games, which is Spurs' longest winless streak in the competition. Moreover, it's now their outright second longest run without a league victory in their history, behind a streak of 16 between December 1934 and April 1935. Each of the last two Spurs managers have lost their first Premier League match in charge of the club, which is Igor Tudor against Arsenal in February, De Zerbi here, after none of the previous 9 Spurs managers, including the caretakers, had lost their first league match in charge of the club. They remain one of the just two teams in the Premier League this season who have failed to win a match after going behind. Along with Wolves, overall Spurs have gone behind in 23 different matches, going on to lose 16 of those and draw the other 7. For Sunderland, though, this was the first time they have defeated Spurs in the Premier League since April 3, 2010, ending a run of 15 games without a win against them. Which concludes the final whistle. Sunderland 1, Tottenham Hotspur 0. And we move over to Nottingham in the game between Nottingham Forest and Aston Villa. Nottingham Forest 1, Aston Villa 1. When Williams moved Pereira's side 3 clear of relegation zone. Victor Pereira may be thanking Sunderland after they beat Tottenham at the Stadium of Light. At the same time, his Nottingham Forest shared the draw with Aston Villa. Nottingham Forest moved 3 points clear of the Premier League relegation zone after holding top 4 chasers Aston Villa to a 1-1 draw. Victor Pereira's side made it 4 league games unbeaten, climbing up to 16th in the table, and added further breathing room between them in 18th placed Tottenham Hotspur, who lost 1-0 against Sunderland on Sunday. Forest did suffer an early blow at the City ground when Murillo own goal sent Unai Emery's visitors ahead, after the Brazilian inadvertently turned home Morgan Rogers' wicked left-sided cross 23 minutes in. Rogers then struck the crossbar after a fine pass from John McGinn, only for Nico Williams to respond 7 minutes later before the halftime win, fizzling into the bottom left corner from 18 yards out. Chances remained at a premium until the hour mark, when Marco Bizot expertly kicked away Morgan Gibbs-White's deflected efforts before McGinn forced a fine stretching stop from Matt Sales. Rogers then blazed over after Sales split Ross Barkley's delivery before Ollie Watkins spurned another glorious chance to win it, leaving Villa to rue a missed opportunity. Williams have now been directly involved in 3 goals in his last 2 Premier League games, which is 1 goal and 2 assists more than his previous 32 outings combined, which is 2. The Wales fullback also managed the game-leading 4 shots, with 3 of those making up a large part of Forest's 4 shots on target in total. But the draw did continue a concerning run for Forest, who are winless in 8 home league games, which is drawing 4 and losing 4. Pereira will still feel his side deserved at least a point after accumulating 1.2 expected goals to Villa's 0.98 in a hard-fought encounter. Full-time score once again: Nottingham Forest 1, Aston Villa 1. And now we move to Italy Serie A in a very entertaining game between Como and league leaders Inter Milan. Como 3, Inter Milan 4, as Dumfries settles Serie A thriller to boost title hopes. Inter took advantage of Napoli's loss earlier on Sunday with a big comeback win over Como to move 9 points clear at the top of the Serie A. Dales and Dumfries completed Inter's comeback following Marcus Thuram's brace with one of his own in a 4-3 win over Como to boost their Scudetto hopes. Cesc Fabregas' side looked to be in control at the stroke of halftime with a 2-0 lead, but Inter fought back to move 9 points clear of Napoli at the top of the Serie A. Champions League contenders Como got their reward on a bright start when Nico Paz raced in behind. Jan Sommer pushed his low curler away as far as Alex Valle, who made no mistake with his first-time finish. And after piling more pressure on Inter's goal, the hosts got their second 9 minutes later with Paz latching on to Jean Boutez's long throw to coolly slot past Sommer. Yet in the first minute of the first half stoppage time, Thuram pulled one back, getting in front of Ignace van der Bremt to poke an effort past Boutez. Thuram then howled Inter level 4 minutes after the break, profiting from defensive mix-up and chipping Boutez from a long way out after the goalkeeper rushed out of his box. Sommer brilliantly denied Jacobo Ramon at the other end with the one save proving crucial when Dumfries got his head to Hakan Çalhanoğlu's free kick in the 58th minute. The Dutchman put Inter 2 ahead in the 72nd minute, bundling home and knocked down from the middle of the area. Como set up a nervy finale when Angie-Johan Boni caught Paz on the edge of the box with Lucas de Cunha converting from the spot. Ramon's first-time poke rattled the crossbar in the stoppage time, but the hosts' attempts at the comeback of their own fell just short. It started so well for Como with Paz then their shining light. He's only one of only two players with 10 plus goals from open play in Serie A this season, along with Lautaro Martinez. But Inter fought back to give a serious boost to their title hopes, with Thuram leading the charge since the start of 2024-25 season. He has scored at least twice in 6 Serie A matches, which is 5 braces, 1 hat-trick, more than any other player. Como will feel hard done by, though, having accumulated 2.79 expected goals from their 24 attempts, which is 8 on target. Inter were clinical, however, netting with 4 of their 5 shots on target, which is 7 efforts overall, while massively overperforming their 0.88 xG. Once again, full-time score in this epic match between Como and Inter Milan. Como 3, Inter Milan 4. And now we move to Parma between Parma and Napoli. Full-time whistle, Parma 1, Napoli 1. As Conte's Scudetto hopes stunted despite McTominay's leveler. Inter have now moved 9 points clear of the Serie A summit after second place Napoli were held by Parma on Sunday. Napoli suffered a blow to their Scudetto hopes despite Scott McTominay salvaging a 1-1 draw away to Parma. McTominay buried a snapshot into the bottom left corner on the hour mark, snatching a point on the road that left them 6 behind Serie A leaders Inter, who traveled to Como later on Sunday and won. Parma needed just 33 seconds to take the lead, with Nesta Elfage flicking on Zion Suzuki's long kick for Gabriel Strepeza to race through and curl past Vanja Milinković-Savic's outstretched dive to his left. Napoli struggled to create any clear first-half chances in response, with Rasmus Højlund going close from Kevin De Bruyne's corner on the stroke of halftime. Matteo Politano blasted off target in the second half before Højlund laid off Stanislav Lobotka's first-time pass for McTominay to fire low past Suzuki from the right of the box and equalize. Alisson Santos then clipped the near post from a tight angle before Parma's penalty appeals for an Alessandro Buongiorno's handball fell on deaf ears. Milinković-Savic still had to be alert late on, tipping over Mandela Keita's ferocious drive, while Elgif Elmas wasted a headed chance at the other end in a cruel blow for Napoli's Scudetto hopes. Napoli will be indebted to McTominay, who was involved in his 50th goal in the Europe top 5 leagues, which is 39 goals and 11 assists, and now has scored in 3 consecutive away games for the first time in Serie A. But Conte will be furious with how his side were caught napping early on. Having scored 13 seconds against Bologna in November, Parma have now scored twice during first minute of play in single Serie A season for the first time in their history. Sarafeza's goal here also marked the fastest conceded by Napoli in the competition since January 2018, when Rodrigo Palacios scored after 24 seconds for Bologna. However, Conte's side dominated from that point on, and will feel they should have claimed all 3 points after accumulating 1.2 unexpected goals to Parma's meager 0.19. Full-time whistle once again. Parma 1, Napoli 1. And that concludes the Sunday football review as Man City closed the gap on top with huge 3-0 win over Chelsea, putting serious pressure back on title race, and a nightmare start for De Zerbi as his debut ends in defeat against Sunderland, which is sinking them deeper into relegation, and Aston Villa held to 1-1 draw against Nottingham Forest, and an over in Serie A, Inter winning 4-3 thriller game away at Como, coming from behind, and Napoli dropping crucial points against Parma in the Champions League race. While the other extra games went on, the main fixtures listed here are summarized. And until next time, until the next football fixtures, see you all, take care, and good night.